Welcome to a new episode of TTG Conversations 5 Questions video series. I'm Karen Yu, Group Editor of TTG Asia Media. This episode is all about the journey to sustainable aviation undertaken by airlines in our region. Taking us through this topic is Subhas Menon, Director General of the Association of Asia Pacific Airlines. Welcome back to the show, Subhas.
Thank you, Karen. I'm looking forward to chat with you.
You know, you're one special one because the very first episode of this series was fronted by you back in August 2020.
I'm really honored. Thank you.
Now, back then we spoke about the resumption of flights, but today we'll look at another crucial topic, how airlines are moving towards sustainability. And this is my first question for you. The Association of Asia Pacific Airlines announced at its assembly last November its target for member airlines to adopt 5% sustainable aviation fuel by 2030. Why is this significant for the aviation industry and for the traveling public?
Well, first of all, as you know, the overarching goal of the industry is to achieve net zero emissions reduction by 2050. Now, 2050 is not that long away. We are only talking about, if you take away this year, you're only talking about 25 years to get to 2050. So it's all well and good that the industry and also the rest of the world has actually taken on this goal. But how do we get there? We've got to get started on it. And at the moment, the inventory of sustainable aviation fuel is just 0.5% of the airline's global need. So how do we get there? And I think the only way is for the oil majors, to really get into the act. And how do we get them into the act? One way is to come up with a target and provide an indication of demand. At the same time, it is a signal to governments, that they need to help this industry. 97% of the new energy resources are allocated to other industries, only 3% to air transport. So we need governments in terms of policy as well as proactive action to ensure that the airline industry gets the necessary feedstock to produce, to get the fuel producers to produce the fuel that we need starting from 2026 onwards.
Do you think they are making sufficient progress? Because, like you said, we only got 20 plus years left to go before 2050 comes along. So, what sort of progress are you seeing already?
Well, it's too soon to tell, but I think it is quite clear that Asia Pacific Airlines and Airlines for America, so far the only two regional airline associations have taken this goal, but I think the rest of the industry has also followed suit. 2 weeks after the Assembly of Presidents last year, the ICAO Conference on Aviation and Alternative Fuels also passed a aspirational goal of reduction of 5% in carbon intensity from aviation versus fossil fuel. And back of the envelope calculation is that the amount of SAF needed to achieve that is more or less the same, as 5% SAF used by 2050. So the industry is aligned, and IATA's 2021 footprint for sustainability also calls for 5% SAF used by 2030. So the whole industry is aligned, all walking on the same plane. But we need help from the other parts of the industry, fuel suppliers, governments, airports, and also manufacturers, to come on board.
Mm-hmm. Now, sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, as you say, is a lot more expensive than traditional jet fuel. The last I checked, the cost is between 2 to 10% more than traditional fuel. So, well, depending on the fuel composition. Surely the move to sustainable fuel sources will have an impact on airfares. How will this shape, air travel demand going into the future? Can average folks like myself still afford to fly?
Well, yes, I think the short answer is yes. The short answer is also it depends. Unfortunately, the long answer is also it depends. Because the reason why there's this price premium is because of scarcity. Our analysis shows that 90% of the price premium is due to scarcity. So I think first and foremost, we have to address that problem. And the only way to address that problem is to have more production. So governments and fuel suppliers have to play a part. At the moment, what we are seeing across the globe is a move towards mandates and taxes. But mandates and taxes is not going to increase the fuel supply. It is only going to increase the cost of travel. What we need is more proactive action. One example is the Singapore government's announcement of a ticket levy. And the amount collected from the levy is going to be used to buy sustainable aviation fuels so that airlines operating to Changi Airport, have fuel to take, to try and achieve the goal. So that is one example. So we need more action like that. There is also the Inflation Reduction Act in the US, which is incentivizing and penalizing fuel suppliers, to produce SAF, or if they don't. So it is this kind of proactive action that will increase the fuel supply. And of course, fuel suppliers need to get off their hands and start producing aviation fuel.
Okay. Besides the cost obstacle, what other challenges must airlines face in the move to sustainable operation?
Well, the most important point is the fuel price. Fuel price pre-pandemic average about $80 a barrel, for jet fuel. But in 2023, it was more or less $115 per barrel. So even without SAF, fuel price is already very high. So that is why, the irony of it, with SAF being more expensive than jet fuel. Actually, fuel suppliers have already got an incentive to start producing SAF, but they are not doing it. So that is a big challenge. The other is that actually most costs are on the rise, because the industry has to attract more new people to come and work for us. Wages have also been on the rise. Non-fuel costs, airport costs, route navigation charges, landing fees, distribution fees have all gone up. And taxation, I mean, everything is back to business as usual. Even governments are busy, piling on the rules and taxes on airlines and passengers. So we got to see a let up on all these things, so that the airlines can go ahead. I mean, margins, I think IATA's DG has said it many times, margins are really razor thin. So these are huge challenges that the industry faces, but nothing new. It's always been the case.
Okay, last question. Responsible travel and tourism is everyone's responsibility. We have seen governments setting, the SAF mandates, airlines making changes to their operations. Now, how can travel agents and the traveling public contribute to the future of net zero flight?
Well, traveling public, I think the best they can do is what they are doing right now, which is really showing their penchant for travel and buying air tickets. I know the cost has gone up recently, but that is mainly because of supply chain issues that is limiting the airline's ability to put on the necessary capacity to meet the pent-up demand. So but that will ease over time, and the airfare should come down, once demand and supply finds an equilibrium. So consumers, all they need to do is keep traveling, because once they keep traveling and then the capacity goes up again, I think airfares will also be more reasonable and moderate, and and the whole industry will be able to do what it can, for travelers and economies at large.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you, Subhash. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Thank you, Karen, for having me, and I wish you all the best.
Past and future episodes of TTG Conversations 5 Questions can be found on the TTG YouTube channel. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye.